Thank you for this good opportunity to interact with our candidates from Machakos Sub-County. As we've heard, my name is Mr. Peter Nzuve, a teacher of French for quite some time, currently now in Mwendimbingu Boys. And I'm an examiner for French paper 3, among others. But today I want us to talk about how to sit the exam for French paper 3 with success. Comment passer l'examen K.C.S.E avec réussite. So we'll be speaking a bit of French and a lot of English so that we understand one another. Sorry, we have begun slightly late because we were waiting for everybody to be on board. Thank you. Now, French paper 3 is part of the 3 papers in French, and I want us to briefly look at the 3 papers in French so that as we go to paper 3, then we'll be able to know the mark we are looking for. For French, everything is in percentage, so that when we are through with the 3 papers, then we'll have 100%. Now we have French paper 1, which is supposed to be the exam happening after paper 3. Paper 3 comes earlier. So we have paper 1, which will have dictation, 5 marks, which is also 5%, comprehension, that is oral comprehension, compréhension orale, which is 15 marks. Then we have the compositions we are calling rédaction, totaling to 25%. Basically, there are 2 compositions. Composition A, 1, that is 1A or B. Composition 2, A or B. For composition 1, 10 marks. For composition 2, we have 15 marks. Then we have paper 2, which has 2 parts. We have grammaire, 15 marks. Then we have compréhension écrite, the written comprehension, 15 marks. So for paper 2, we have 30%. Then we have now our paper 3, which is our paper of interest today, which is divided into 3 parts. We have lecture à haute voix, that is reading aloud, 5 points. Then we have part 2 of the exam, exposé, which is 5 marks. Then we have finally conversation, which is also written at the same way it is written in English. Conversation giving us 15 marks. So basically for paper 3, we have 5 marks plus 5 marks plus 15. That takes us to 25%. And like I mentioned at the beginning, you have a total of 100% when you have done the 3 exams. Now let us go to our paper 3 in particular. And as you can see there, we call it in French, production orale. La production orale, oral production. Meaning, like you can see from the image, what you are going to have is an oral interaction that looks like an interview. The examiner in front of you and you facing them. For the 15 or so minutes, you will be together. It is like an interview. Just before we begin, we need therefore to be prepared to face somebody. And for us to be able to face somebody, we need to be comfortable with ourselves. So we need to have dressed well. We need to have taken a shower. We need basically to be prepared to be close to somebody for an exam which is similar to an interview. Now, the 3 parts, for those who might have missed, as I mentioned, we have 3 parts. Reading aloud will be the first. So you'll be expected to read and read audibly for somebody to hear you. And that somebody is the examiner. Then we have exposé, which is the second part, which is a speech of 2 minutes. You'll be expected to give the speech uninterrupted. Then we have the last part, which is an interaction between the examiner and the candidate. And like we saw, a conversation is the one takes most of the marks, 15%. Now, if you allow me, then we will proceed to the 3 parts in details. 3 parts each in details. In case you have a question, candidates or the teachers, then you can write them in the chat so that we walk through this journey together. Now we begin with reading aloud, lecture haute voix. At the end of the exam, it will be expected you will have a score of 5 points. 5%. And basically, lecture haute voix is simply reading aloud. What is it we need to do so that we can read aloud successively? I've written there, pour bien lire, il faut faire attention à, these are the important domains, les domaines importants, les domaines déterminants. This is what will determine the mark you get. This is what you should pay your attention to. La prononciation, la prononciation, pronunciation. La punctuation, punctuations. And why punctuations? We are just about to see the punctuation themselves, because punctuations determine the emotions that you will evoke as you read. Punctuation determines the pauses you put. In short, punctuations aid in enabling communication as desired. Then we have l'intonation. L'intonation, and we're going to look at it in details. Then we have la compréhensibilité. La compréhensibilité, the ability to make it understood what you're reading. Then we have la liaison, and I'll be talking about la liaison in a short while. La liaison, l'audibilité, audibility, just like it seems in English. L'enchaînement, I'll be talking to you about the slight difference between la liaison and l'enchaînement. Then we have l'articulation, l'articulation, articulation. Then in French, just like in the other languages, we have rhythm, le rythme, le bon rythme, le bon rythme. There is a rhythm for every language, and French has one. And we are also talking about le soutien français. During your reading from the beginning to the end, we expect that you read in a French manner, which is what we are calling le soutien français. Durant la durée de lecture. Then we have la confiance, la confiance. Now, basically, there are 2 things you don't need to struggle a lot to have. One is la confiance, confidence, confidence. Then the other one is l'audibilité, audibility. These are things we can easily have, and they give us marks. Now, if you allow me, then we'll proceed now to the specific details, each part in detail. Reading aloud en détail. Reading aloud en détail. Reading aloud in details now. Now, normalement, il y a 2 cartes différentes. There are 2 different cards that the examiner will make you choose from. We have card A and we have card B. So the examiner will allow you to choose one out of the 2. You cannot see what is written on those cards because they'll be placed upside down. So it is a matter of just picking one. Now, the card you will pick on the side that is hidden will contain a text that you'll be required to read. Now, le texte peut être. The text could be un dialogue, une conversation téléphonique, that is a telephone conversation, publicité, an advert, une annonce, an announcement, but it can also be a paragraph picked from a text. Paragraph. So the text will have that nature. Now you know there's a difference when you are reading a dialogue and when you are reading a paragraph. If you're reading a dialogue, then you're going to have two different voices. To plan for this, all you need to do is use your own voice as one of the persons and choose another slightly different voice to use for the other person. Now, if it is a paragraph, then you don't need that mimicry, so it is easy. Now, I've said attention so that I ask for your attention at the end. That look here, you are only supposed to choose one card. Il faut choisir une carte seulement. Only one. And you're reading only one card. We can move to specifics on what I have said. Now, for you to be able to read well, I know you've been reading from Form 1, 2, 3, and now you're in Form 4. But now this time, we are reading 4, a public that will award us a mark that determines how our lives are thereafter. So what are the specific areas that we need to prepare on? La prononciation. Pronunciation. Pronunciation of what? Pronunciation of words. La prononciation des mots. Now, the pronunciation of words is determined by a number of things in French. That's why I've said there, attention aux éléments clés. Pay attention to these elements that are key. Éléments clés. French, unlike English and Kiswahili, has a number of punctuation marks. Now, they include the accents. We call them les accents phonétiques. Les accents phonétiques. And we have a number of them. We have l'accent aigu. I don't know whether you can see my cursor. I'm pointing at it. Accent aigu. Accent grave. Accent, what we don't call it accent, but we call it tréma. Then we have cédille. Then we have accent circonflexe. For ease of understanding, I have chosen to give examples where they have been used. We have the word élève. Élève, that is pupil or student. Now it has the first E here. It has accent aigu. It goes towards the front, accent aigu. But it also has accent grave, which faces backwards, accent grave. Then we have maize, and it has the tremor, le tremor. You realize there is another word that looks like this, but the I has only one dot, mais. Je parle français, mais je suis Kamba. Mais, but this one goes to maïs. It is because of the tremor. Then we have the cédille français. That's why we don't say frangais. It is because the C has scintille. So it goes to français. Then we have accent circonflexe. I have moved my cursor to where we have the computer. Just a bit. Fenêtre. So on the E, we have accent circonflexe. Now remember in Form 1, you sang the alphabet. A, B, C, all the way to Z. It was on purpose. Knowing the alphabet makes you know the sounds associated with each of the letters of the alphabet. And the French have the same alphabet numbers or letters as the English. Now, we have letters in French that are silent. For example, when you talk of hospital in French, you say hôpital, hôpital, meaning le H est muet. It is silent. So the examiner who sees the word hôpital in the card will be expecting you to have it well pronounced with the silent being H. Then we have a combination of letters with vowels and consonants. In French, we call them des voyelles, vowels, voyelles. And then we have des consonnes, des consonnes. I want to give an example. Now, the rule in French is that the end consonants are not articulated. So when you're pronouncing a word that has T at the end, then the T will be silencieux. For example, we have the word student. We say étudiant, étudiant. So we will not say étudiante, we will say étudiant. Why? Because the T at the end is silencieux. Now, the feminine form ends with a consonant, and it is a specific one, E, the consonant E. Now, when the consonant, vowel, not consonant, it ends with the vowel E, voyelle E. The effect of voyelle, especially when E is used, it will make the consonant articulated. Now, while we were saying étudiant for the boy, now we are saying étudiante for the girl. Why? Because there is E that comes after T. Then we have to be careful because we have said end consonants do not get articulated. We have said E will make the consonant articulated. Now we look for others like docteur, docteur. So you will not say docteur, you say docteur, sir, professeur. Look at those consonants. Then we talk about liaison. Liaison. Now what is liaison? Liaison is when you have a word ending with a consonant coming before another that begins with either a vowel or silent H. H muet. H muet. Now, I know in Form 3, you learned that we have two types of liaison. We have the obligatoire, the one which is a must, and we have the one which is facultative. That is, you can choose to have it or not. Now for reading, we say just have liaison if it is there. The one which is obligatory, the one which is for choice, all of them articulate them so that we'll have the French rhythm. Now an example of liaison is here. We have il est élève, il est élève. Now I'll put the T in red to highlight it. A ends with T, which is a consonant. Élève begins with E, which is accentuated. Doesn't matter either, but it's a vowel. So now when you are pronouncing, you will not say il est élève. You'll be saying il est élève, élève, élève. Why? Because you'll be joining the T with the E at the beginning of élève. So that is what we are calling liaison. You are joining T with E to say élève. Thank you. Now, there are a number of things we need to pay attention to. A number of things we pay attention to. Attention. There is no liaison with the word A. The word A in French is ent. It doesn't take a liaison. For example, look at this sentence below there. We have elle est belle. Elle est belle. Et intelligente. Elle est belle et intelligente. If I am reading in an exam and I say, elle est belle et intelligente, this will be a serious mistake and the examiners look for it to award or deny marks. So we will not saying intelligent, we'll be saying et intelligent. Elle est belle et intelligente. Then now we have intonation, because we mentioned l'intonation. In French, we have two types of intonation, just like in English. We have intonation montante, that which goes up. Intonation that rises at the end, montante. Then we have intonation descendante. Thank you. So we realized there was noise coming from the background. That is what we've been trying to control. As I said, if you have a question to ask, you can put it in the chat. We'll be able to respond to it. Now, I've just mentioned that in French, just like in English, we have two types of intonation. We have l'intonation montante, that which rises at the end. Then we have descendante, that which goes down, descendante. Rising intonation, descending intonation. So now, I want to give an example. You can see I've indicated what type it is. When you want to say I'm a Kenyan in French, you say, je suis Kenyan. Je suis Kenyan. There's a falling intonation. The falling intonation. It would be wrong for me to read in the card and say, je suis Kenyan. That would be funny. That sounds like a question. So, je suis Kenyan. Most of the sentences that end with a full stop, an exclamation mark, will have a falling intonation, intonation descendante. Then we have, when you want to ask somebody, do you speak French? Do you speak French? In French, we say, tu parles français? Tu parles français? Tu parles français? So you can hear that it is a rising intonation. Intonation montante. Intonation montante. Then now the other thing you need to pay attention to is the French R. It's a special R, air français. Air français. Like we talk of, we don't say français, we say français. Répéter, to repeat, not répéter. So we need to basically try the French R, air français. Then now, I did mention the word enchaînement. Enchaînement in Swahili would look like funganisha kwa minyororo, what we call binary, chaining. It has nothing to do with liaison. It is not liaison because for liaison to take place, there has to be a word ending with a consonant, followed by a word beginning with either vowel or ashmue. Now, enchaînement, as we'll see in this example, has to do with joining of words that do not necessarily have consonant ending and vowel beginning. For example, we have this example here. We have elle arrête un voleur. Now see, there's something I've done to the letter E at the end of elle. Listen to how I pronounce it. Elle arrête. Elle arrête. Ella. Ella. So you realize la. The L, the E disappears in pronunciation. The L marries the A at the beginning of arrête. Donc, ella.
Elle arrête. Then you realize for arrête, ending with E, when I want to continue, I'll say elle arrête. Elle arrête. So I've already done away with the E here, and the T is marrying the U of un. So I'll read elle arrête un voleur. Elle arrête un voleur. L'arrête un voleur. That is what we call enchaînement. Enchaînement. It comes naturally when you train in reading, so it will happen. Then remember, just like in other languages, it is normal to stress the last syllable in French when you're reading. It is normal to stress the last syllable in French. Okay. Now, then we also need to pay attention to. We need to pay attention to end consonants that are usually pronounced, not. Okay. Let me correct this. That we say the rule is end consonants are not articulated. That is the basic rule. So I see a word that ends with a consonant. I prepare not to articulate the consonant. But now we have exceptions. We have exceptions. What do we mean by exceptions? We have those words that will not obey to that rule. And they include the word son. Son. Like my father is Peter, so I'll say je suis le fils de Peter. Fils. Fils. If I say fil, I omit the S here, then I will have said a thread, uzi, ya kushonea. So this word is an exception because it ends with the consonant S and the S will be articulated. So, fils. Your school bus, bus. Bus. The S is articulated. Then we have goal, butte. Butte. The T is articulated. Then we have, when you are the exclamative or the interjection, hélas. Hélas. So see, these are exceptions. These are just examples of the words that will have the end consonant articulated. That's why I've said ETC, meaning there are others that will require articulation. Now then, you need also to pay attention. You need also to pay attention for your reading. Words whose final consonants are sometimes, sometimes pronounced, while at others they are not. They include plus, like you talk of, plus que parfait. Plus que parfait, the tense, plus que parfait. When you want to say in addition, you say en plus. Then we have the word tous. Tous, all of us. When it comes at the end of the sentence, you say nous tous. Sisi sote, nous tous. When it comes just before a comma, you say nous tous. But if it comes before other words, then it will be tout. The S will be silent. For example, nous sommes tous intelligents. Nous sommes tous intelligents. Then, we need also to pay attention. This is particularly important. We have words that their singular and their plural forms are different in pronunciation. They are few, they are not many. For example, you realize the ones I've given here, when they are in the singular form, the end consonant is actually articulated. An example is the egg. You say enough, enough, an egg, enough. But when you go to the plural, the end consonant is silencieuse. For example, in singular, you said enough. In the plural, you are saying des œufs, des œufs, enough, des œufs. So you see, of, œufs. Then bone, bone, mfupa, loss, loss. But when you go to the plural, you say les œufs, les œufs, les œufs. So, in the plural, the S is not articulated. The same will apply for things like buff, the bull, ng'ombe wa kiume, buff. You talk of un buff, then plural, des bœufs. I don't know whether you have any question to that point. Maybe we'll proceed. Now, we talked about punctuation, la ponctuation. Perhaps it is important we know what punctuation marks we are talking about. Punctuation marks, la ponctuation. We have the first one there, we have le point d'interrogation. Point d'interrogation. Then we have point. Then we have virgule. I'm showing my cursor there so that I don't have to say them in English because we can't see them. We can see them. So we have point d'interrogation. Then we have point. Then we have virgule. Then we have point de suspension. Point de suspension. Then we have point d'exclamation. Exclamation. Then we have entre guillemets. Then we have point virgule. Then we have deux points. Then we have tiré. We have tiré. Now, as we mentioned, these punctuation marks will determine a lot the intonation and the emotions. The intonation and the emotions, and then the pauses. Because you can't ask a question and continue, you pause. You can't have a full stop and continue immediately, you pause. So a full stop is a long pause, a comma is a short pause. Now, unless there are questions, then I want to show you something very important. This is what maybe you haven't seen. Grille d'évaluation. This is what we use to rate you. As you read, the examiner is making their own comments, but they are also planning where to place you in terms of percentage. We have 1 mark, 1.5 mark, all the way to 5 marks. What happens after we listen to you as you read, we gauge you from the intonation, from the articulation, from the punctuation, and so forth and so on, and decide whether you fall in any of the 9 categories given here. Do you belong to 4.5? Do you belong to 5? Do you belong to 1? Mostly, most people can score 3. Most people score 3 because you are high school, you're in high school, so you don't expect people to rate you as college people. You are not native French speakers, so you are not penalized so much. So for most of the people, you can score 3 and above. So let's plan to get 5 or 4.5. Now, there's something we have not mentioned, and that is speed. Speed. Now, you need to know that your speed should be the normal speed, vitesse normale. What is normal speed? It is the one that you use usually when you're reading in normal pace, even in Swahili and English. Don't rush, don't hesitate, don't be too slow. Now, I want us to go to expose. And maybe before we go to expose, we need to ask ourselves, so have we understood how to read? Have we understood that when we are reading, we are looking for a whole 5% and that it is paramount? Have we understood that the examiner will not interrupt? They will say nothing. They will just listen to you. Have we understood that there are key areas for us to remember when we are reading the card? And what are these areas? That is where I want us to get back to. The areas are la prononciation, la ponctuation, l'intonation, la compréhensibilité, the ability to be understood, la liaison, l'audibilité, l'enchaînement, l'articulation, articulating the word, bringing out the word completely, le bon rythme et soutien français, la confiance. We need to remember those so that it is easy for us to say we got everything that we wanted to get in the reading aloud. Now, if you allow me, then we'll go to expose. And in expose, we are simply talking about a speech. A speech. Now remember, for reading aloud, you picked a card out of 2. There are other cards that are there, and there are 4 of them. There are 4 cards. We have 4 cards that the examiner will allow you to choose from. You will only choose one. So we have card A, card B, card C, and card D. The examiner allows you to choose only one. Now, that card contains a topic. It is that topic that the examiner expects you to go and prepare and come and give, to go and prepare on and come and give a speech of 2 minutes. If it is 2 minutes, you can't give a short speech of 30 seconds. That's too short. Maybe a minute would be allowed. Maybe a minute and a half would be better, or 2.5 minutes would even be okay. So you have 2 minutes. So realize you are going out with a card that contains a topic, and it is for you to look at the keywords in the card and plan how to come and give a speech for 2 minutes. You have usually 15 minutes of preparation. And for the 15 minutes of preparation, remember, you are preparing on reading aloud, and you are preparing on a speech of 2 minutes. Now for the speech of 2 minutes, which now is where we want to be, the examiner could also choose to give you the card of their own choice. So do not be surprised if the examiner gives you a card and tells you that is the one you prepare on. But the normal practice is people choose their cards. Now, I want us briefly to say the things you're going to prepare on before we should go to detailed approach to this part of the exam. Now, expose is out of 5%. I like saying percent so that you don't say it's 5 marks, so you can ignore. You can't. Because if you ignore 5, you remain with 95. So now, expose requires you to pay attention to the following areas. La compréhension de la tâche. You are outside there, you have a topic, and all students in Kenya, all candidates in Kenya are going through the same topics. So you have to find a way of understanding it the much you can. La compréhension de la tâche. Then we have this discours is actually supposed to be in parts. So how will you introduce it? L'introduction du discours. Remember they say first impressions matter a lot. How do you introduce your speech? L'introduction du discours. It will make the examiner know here there is a speech. It will make the examiner doubt whether there is a speech. It will make the examiner conclude here there is no speech. So l'introduction is very important. Then the other important thing is it is your own speech, so you are supposed to have it run, the fluidity. La parole courante. Talk in your own way that is continuous. Then we have la progression logique du discours. Does your speech have a logical flow? That which makes one feel we are beginning, we are on, we are concluding. Do the points you have run from one to the other comfortably? Of course, you are learning French as a third language or fourth language. So it is expected you will not be as strong as in the others, but you have a logical flow of ideas. Coherence, coherence, the flow of Mtiririko. And in coherence, we also want to talk about cohesion, linking of ideas. Then we have l'intonation. As you speak, are you monotonous? Are you monotonous? Are you speaking in a way that you're boring? So intonation is very important. Sometimes it rises, sometimes it goes down. It's normal. Then we have l'articulation claire des points. Articulation claire de points. Your points, articulate them clearly because they are yours. Don't worry too much about how you'll be considered. Worry about how you consider yourself. Let's look at it in details. Now you have your card, one for exposing. You are outside. What will you be preparing on? One of the things you should be preparing on is la confiance. That whether you understand the topic or not, you cannot project an image of a person who is not confident. So now you have to plan how you will sit. Where do you place your hands so that they don't play on the table as you do your presentation? How will you sit your posture so that it portrays you as a person who is confident? Remember, we have not even begun reading. We are just now talking about the personality, how comfortable they portray themselves, so that the examiner can know this candidate is prepared. Il a eu une bonne préparation. Second thing is, you look for your points. You even plan how to introduce, but you look for your points for the body and plan which one will come before, which one will follow, which one will come last. So that is what we are talking of. Organisez vos idées en ordre chronologique. A chronological order of your points so that they flow from one to the other. Then we are saying faire attention au niveau de langue. Remember, you have a choice of the words you are going to use. But why are you choosing these words? So that they can convince the examiner that you are a prepared candidate. That's why we are saying, pay attention to your level of language, your level of language that you are going to use. Then, you're giving a speech and pronunciation is important. Prononcez bien les mots français. Prononcez bien les mots français. Take time to consider how to pronounce each of the words you're going to use. Then you're giving a speech, it is expected to have points, but the points will be in prose. They will be joined into paragraphs to make your speech. So, construire des phrases grammaticalement correctes. Let them be grammatically correct in terms of conjugation of sentences, conjugation of verbs, in terms of tenses, in terms of agreement in terms of gender and number. Gender and number. Just before I forget, it would be wrong for one to have mistakes in the basic things. Like if you say, ma mère, il est professeur. Now you've already said ma mère, then you have said il, meaning mom is masculine. That is basic mistake. So instead of committing that mistake, just say ma mère. Don't use the pronoun at all, at all. It would be wrong for you to say nous parler français. Why? Because nous goes with un and s, nous parlons. Now, if you allow me to proceed, then the title from outside can be difficult, can be easy, can be there in between. What will you do then? Because it would be wrong for you to come to the exam room and tell the examiner, excusez-moi, monsieur, je n'ai rien compris. Excuse me, sir, I understood nothing. You can't say so because the speech has to be there for the marks to be awarded. It is the speech that will contain the vocabulary to be awarded marks. It is the speech that will contain the structure to be awarded marks. It is the speech that will contain the duration to be awarded marks. So what do? Look for keywords and make sure you use them to design what the topic could be about and prepare on that with confidence that you are right. If you are out of subject, let it not be because you planned from outside that the examiner wants you to speak about les sports and you choose to speak about la famille. The examiner wants you to speak about sports activities in school, then you say, no, with my teacher, we prepared on famille, nitaongea juu ya famille. Now it will be wrong because that is deliberate. Then you also need to know it is important to use expressions and vocabulary that is appropriate to earn marks. Utilisez des expressions et vocabulaire appropriés pour gagner des points. Deliberately plan, just the way you plan when you're going for an outing to dress well, plan to have expressions for this exam, plan to have vocabulary linked to the topics you've given so that you can earn points. Okay. Now I know that has been pretty fast, so maybe I'll go back a bit so that I give you some seconds, you look at what we've said, because we're about to go to the topics where the expose might come from. What you needed to pay attention, I said, compréhension de la tâche, understanding that activity, that topic, that duty. L'introduction du discours, the introduction of discours. We will say how to introduce soon. La parole courante, that which flows, speech that flows. La progression logique du discours, logical flow of the speech. Cohérence et cohésion, coherence and cohesion. L'intonation, montante, descendante. L'articulation claire des points. Articulation of points in such a way that it makes us feel, oh yes, that is a point. Now, maybe now you will allow me to proceed to the topics. Now, these are most of the topics from which your discours is likely to come from. Your discours is likely to come from these topics. La francophonie. What is la francophonie? La francophonie is the French or the francophone world the Francophone countries, the colonies of the French nation, the French culture, what is celebrated about French, the country called La République Française, France itself, how is it? What currency does it use? What are their national slogan and so forth and so on? What are their overseas territories? Then we have the tourism. Hein? Qui sont les touristes qui visitent notre pays? Who are the tourists who visit our country? De quel pays? Where do they come from? Leur nationalité. What are their nationality? Hein? Quels sont les avantages du tourisme? What are the advantages of tourism? Quels sont les inconvénients? What are the disadvantages of tourism? In the same space, you'll be talking about la devise étrangère, foreign exchange, because it comes at this point. Then we have la famille. La famille, a number of things. La famille moderne, la famille traditionnelle. What is the difference between la famille moderne et la famille traditionnelle? What are the activities you do en famille? Which activities do you do as a family? Hein? Est-ce que la famille est petite ou grande? Est-ce que la famille est petite ou grande? Is it small? And then an interesting question. Quelle est votre famille idéale? What is your ideal family? La famille nombreuse ou bien la petite famille? At the same time, quel est votre épouse idéal? Huh? Here you'll be asked your ideal wife, your ideal husband. It's part of family language. Then we have l'école. And here in l'école, you'll be asked about anything to do with your school. Comment s'appelle votre école? Mon école s'appelle Lycée Machakos. Mon école s'appelle Lycée Cheney Baptiste. Ah, combien de professeurs y a-t-il? How many teachers do you have? Comment s'appelle la directrice? What is the name of the principal? Directeur, directrice, principal. They will ask you to talk about uniform. They will ask you to talk about les règles et l'uniforme. Les repas à l'école, what do you eat? They will ask you about l'école externe et interne. So basically, they will ask you questions around the school environment. Then we have les professions. Now, before I proceed, you realize these topics are actually there in your syllabus. In Form 1, you dealt with la famille et l'école. In Form 3, you have dealt with tourism. In Form 3, you are dealing with les loisirs. In Form 4, you'll be dealing with les professions. So these topics are there, so they are not strange, for those who may find them strange at the moment. So les professions ou les carrières, you are talking about profession and career. Profession and career. Quelle est votre profession préférée? What is your preferred profession? And when you talk about that, then we ask you, quelles sont les qualifications académiques? So what grades do you need to score to get to the profession you have chosen? Then we have les loisirs, and for les loisirs, or les passe-temps, we are talking about qu'est-ce que vous faites quand vous êtes libre? What do you know, do you do when you're free? When you have completely nothing official to do, what do you do? The leisure time activities or the pastime activities? Loisirs, leisure time activities. Les passe-temps, pastime activities. Then you'll be talking about la santé. La santé. La santé, you are talking about health. Health. Qu'est-ce que vous mangez? They say what you eat determines what you become. Qu'est-ce que vous mangez? Pour être en bonne santé, do you eat things with les vitamines? What do you eat? Do you exercise? Quels sont les exercices que vous faites? To be en bonne forme, to be en bonne santé. When they talk to you, they want you to talk about l'environnement. L'environnement, the surrounding, l'environnement, your environment. This area, you'll be required to talk also about la pollution de l'environnement. And there are different forms of la pollution. We have pollution de la terre, les déchets, la pollution de l'eau, la pollution atmosphérique. So they will require you to be able to understand and talk about those details. They will want to know whether you know how to protéger l'environnement. Qu'est-ce que vous faites pour protéger l'environnement? What do you do to protect the environment? Huh? Planter les herbes, planting of trees. Huh? And in terms of rubbish, what do you do? Because that is also part of l'environnement. Mettez les déchets dans la poubelle. Putting the waste in la poubelle, the dustbins. What do you do to the taps? Éteignez les robinets. Éteignez l'électricité, because that is also part of the environment. So switch off the electricity, close the taps when you finish to use them. Then they would want you to talk about le transport ou bien le voyage. Quels sont les moyens de transport? What are the means of transport? Which ones do you know? Do we say je voyage à pied or do we say je voyage en pied? Remember les prépositions. The things that you travel in, you use en. Kama unaitembelea ndani, basi you use en. E-N. En bus, en voiture, en avion, en montgolfier, en train, en camion, en pick-up, en car. It is because you are traveling inside. The ones you travel from outside, you use à pied, à moto, à cheval, à chameau. Remember? So it's good to revise on this. Now, then, where do you like traveling? Où aimez-vous voyager? Pourquoi? Then we have le media et l'information. So we're talking about media, and when you're talking about media and information, then we're also talking about la technologie moderne. La technologie moderne. It's important to remember la technologie moderne. Like now we have le téléphone portable, the mobile phone, Quelles sont les choses que vous pourriez faire à travers le téléphone portable? With your telephone portable, what can you do? Envoyer les textos, appeler les amis. That is very normal. Sending texts and calling friends, that's very normal. But do you know you can also suivre l'Internet? Communiquer via WhatsApp, and so forth and so on. Now we have the media now in general. We can narrow down to la télévision, la radio, le cinéma. What are the things you can do through there? Then we have l'Internet. When we have les ordinateurs, l'Internet, what are the things you can do sur l'Internet? Quelles sont les activités que vous pourriez faire à travers l'Internet? It's important. What can you do? Envoyer les emails. You can send emails. Communiquer via page Facebook. You can do that. Chercher d'informations sur l'Internet. You can look for information from the Internet or for Google. Can Google, we say Google in French, okay? So it is important that you know what you can talk about the domain of the media. Then we have les nouvelles technologies, I think I've touched on them. Then we have la culture, la culture, the way of life of people. What do the French like doing? Les sujets à préparer. The subjects or the topics that we should focus on because they are likely to be part of what you examined on. Now we talked about la culture, before we played tricks by net, la culture, the French culture vis-a-vis our own culture, because you can talk our own culture, but in French. Then we can talk about les maladies. Which malady do we know? How do we express our sickness, our pains in French? Je suis enrhumé. J'ai le paludisme. Then we have les virus VIH. Les virus VIH vis-à-vis le sida. And what are they in full? And how does one get them? Le virus VIH. Le sida. How do we get them? Then we have la mutilation génitale femelle, FGM. What is your view? Quel est votre point de vue? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez? What do you think about them? They may come. L'abus de drogue. L'abus de drogue is a constant topic. Quelles sont les drogues? Le marijuana, l'héroïne, le cocaine. What are the drugs do you know in French? Quels sont leurs effets? What are their effects? Then we have les crimes, crimes, le vol, theft, l'avortement, abortion, la violence. Like now we have la violence dans les écoles. So it is a topical issue that can easily be thrown into the exam room. Then we have la politique. La politique. Quel est votre président préféré? Although it's a topic that is held with a bit of reservation. So basically those are the topics you may be required to talk about. They may decide to bring others, but basically these are the areas. Now, we can proceed a bit. What would be the nature of the speech, which we are calling les tâches, the activité, the duty? It could be description, décrire votre école idéale. If you are told to describe your ideal school, mais qu'est-ce que vous allez dire? What will you say? Donner son point de vue. Can you give your point of view about a particular subject, particular topic? Dis si l'on est d'accord ou pas. Do you agree with or you do not agree with? Qu'en pensez-vous? Anybody asking you, qu'en pensez-vous? They are most likely asking your opinion. Qu'en pensez-vous? Le téléphone portable est très important pour les étudiants. Qu'en pensez-vous? The mobile phone is very important for students. Qu'en pensez-vous? What do you think? Quel est votre point de vue? They're the same as donner son point de vue. Quelle est votre opinion? What is your opinion? Est-ce vrai? Is it true? Is it true? Les écoles internes sont plus importantes que les écoles externes. Externes. Est-ce vrai? Is it true? Comparer. Can you compare things? Justifier. Can you justify a particular stand. Raconter, tell. Racontez les activités de votre anniversaire récent. Hein? Tell about the activities of your recent birthday party. Et qu'est-ce que vous allez dire? Expliquer, explain. So those could be the activities you may be required to engage on. We are still on, but there are things we need to noter. That's why I've said noter. L'exposé doit avoir, très important, the exposé must have the following. D'abord, une introduction. Make sure that your exposé has introduction. Puis, encore, it has to have a body. And finalement, une conclusion. And conclude in a way that the examiner doesn't ask you, vous avez fini? Fini? And you know the way we do it, at times you say, je suis fini. Je suis fini. Nimeisha. If you tell the examiner I am finished, then you know what you are saying is not even right. It could be possible you are finished. So finish in a way, for example, en conclusion, then you say, pour conclure, then you say, or you can say finalement, then the examiner will be cued to believe you are ending your speech. Of much importance, we want to underline la maîtrise de la langue. Your mastery of the language, of course, to the level of a high school student, is more important. Allez. We have talked about l'introduction, le corps, la conclusion. So we want to ask ourselves, how can you introduce? It's good to show people the way, even as you tell them to choose the way. If I were a candidate, I may, in a simple way, want to introduce as follows. Let's say, for example, I'm talking about le français est important. Le français est important au Kenya. Then I'll say, Monsieur. If the person standing seated in front of me is Monsieur, if they're standing in front of me is seated in front of me, Madame, I will say, Madame, je vais vous parler sur le sujet, le français est important au Kenya. Monsieur, je vais vous parler sur le sujet, le français est important au Kenya. That would be my introduction. There are those who will say, oui, je suis d'accord. Remember when you are, êtes-vous d'accord? Est-ce vrai? So you can say, oui, je suis d'accord que le français est important au Kenya. Or I can introduce, non, ce n'est pas vrai que les écoles antéana sont plus importantes que les écoles externes. Non, ce n'est pas vrai. À mon avis, le français est important au Kenya. These are ways of introducing. Monsieur, je vous parlerai de. Then you say the topic. Monsieur, je vous parlerai de. Then you say the topic. Je parlerai de l'importance du français au Kenya. You can say, d'après moi, le français n'est pas important au Kenya. You see, these are some of the ways you can introduce your discours, your exposé. Très important. So I'm just giving a hint so that we are able to have something to work with, even as we look for other ways of doing our speech. Now we talk about la progression logique, the logical flow of ideas. You know, there are words that enable us to do that. and they are listed here. I've given examples. I hope I'm not too fast, not too slow, because I want you to get it so that you use it during the coming exam and get your straight A. La progression logique. So we have les connecteurs d'énumération. Les connecteurs d'énumération. They are connectors. You talk of tout d'abord, je vais vous dire comment je m'appelle. Tout d'abord, first. Premièrement, firstly. Premièrement. Then you are through with that one. Then you go to the second one. Deuxièmement. Then you can go to troisièmement, quatrièmement, cinquièmement. When you reach the end, you say enfin. Bas. The moment you say enfin, then the examiner, whoever is listening to you, realize it. Mais vous êtes déjà à la fin. C'est la conclusion. If you're getting it, then allow me to move to the next one. We have les connecteurs d'illustration. These ones are supposed to illustrate something you're saying. Par exemple, the moment you see par exemple, you're already illustrating. Want to give an example? Huh? Les outils de la technologie moderne sont très importants. Par exemple, le téléphone portable peut nous servir pendant la communication avec nos amis. I am illustrating. I've given an example. Then we have les connecteurs de comparaison. These connectors enable us to compare. Dans ce cas, in this case, you're trying to compare a case with another. Les connecteurs d'explication. These ones enable us to explain, not to illustrate. Explication, expliquer. Cause, consequence. There's always a consequence for any cause. Parce que je suis malade, je vais à l'hôpital. Because I am sick, I am going to the hospital. Parce que je suis malade, je vais à l'hôpital. And you know the many synonyms for parce que. We have car and we have puisque. But now we have grâce à, and you realize the A is not accentuated. Should have accentuated it. Axographe. Grâce à, thanks to. Then we go to les connecteurs de concession. When you want to agree or give in, you are conceding, concession. Il est vrai que, it is true that you are agreeing. But sometimes you agree to disagree. Il est vrai que les téléphones portables sont importants aux étudiants à l'école secondaire, mais ils sont dangereux. So you have to see that. Then we have les connecteurs d'opposition. You want to disagree. Or, en revanche, par contre, you want to disagree. So basically, these are elements that will allow us to have a logical flow of our expose, logical flow of our discourse, logical flow of our points. If we choose to say it is okay with what we've done, then we could probably move to la conversation. But before we go there, I want us to ask ourselves, so what did we say must be remembered in this discourse so that even as we progress, we are able to remember? Remember, we say the expose is out of 5 marks, and we say, let's pay attention. Attention à la compréhension de la tâche. from outside there to understand the activity at hand is very important. Do we have the activity looking a bit challenging to us? It can be, it's a possibility. What are the keywords? Identify the keywords, believe in them to guide you on the possible direction of your speech. L'introduction du discours is very important. Remember, the discours should have 3 parts: introduction, cœur, et puis conclusion. But we are saying l'introduction, très important. It says how prepared you are. It says how set you are. La parole courante, a speech that is flowing. La progression logique du discours, logical flow, from one idea falling to the other. La cohérence et la cohésion, how you join and how you make them flow. L'intonation, montante, descendante. L'articulation claire des points, let the points be well articulated so that the examiner can remember you are the point. So basically, that could be all about exposé. I want us now to look at the last part of this paper. You can take questions from that point. And that is la conversation. Now, conversation is out of 15 marks. La conversation est un dialogue. It's a dialogue. It is a dialogue between you and the examiner. The examiner and you are going to engage one another in la conversation. But the question is, who needs it? At the end of the conversation, the examiner may award you 15 out of 15. I've done it. My friends have done it. You can get 15 out of 15. They can award you 10. They can award you any mark, but they cannot award themselves and you can't award them. So you need the dialogue yourself. So sustain it. That's why we say key things that you must remember, and these are very important. Soyez naturel durant la conversation. Soyez naturel durant la conversation. Be natural during the conversation. Just be natural. Be yourself. It doesn't matter the French you are using, whether it is of high quality, low quality, medium quality. Just be natural. How do you speak yourself? Speak like that. Now, where is the emphasis is where is it put? L'accent est mis sur la capacité de comprendre les questions posées. We want to believe you have understood les questions posées. The questions that are being asked to you, les questions posées. We want to be convinced that you have understood them. How will we know you have understood them? By how you answer and when you answer. If I ask you a question and you answer after 10 minutes, sérieusement, vous n'avez pas compris la question. Et si vous avez compris, vous n'avez pas le vocabulaire voulu. If you have understood this dialogue, this question, then chances are you don't know the words to use, you don't have the right vocabulary, or there's something about it. Aussi, la volonté de faire développer le dialogue. Do you have the willingness? Do you have the willingness to have the dialogue grow? Because if it dies with your marks. I want, as an examiner, to see a willing candidate who is so excited, who is so full of energy, that I will not want to stop the conversation between me and them. Répondez aux questions en détail. If I ask you, parlez-moi un peu de votre famille. Then you tell me, ma famille est nombreuse. Aïe, aïe, aïe. Ma famille est nombreuse, and it is over. That means you don't like talking about your family. So I move you to another topic, which you answer the same way, same short answers. No, c'est pas bon. C'est pas juste. Respond in details. I'm supposed to test you on 3 to 4 topics. But if you're very good in 2, I have already gauged how much I can give you. I give you your marks. I don't have to continue. So answer the question in details. If I ask you, parlez un peu de votre famille, talk to me about everything there is to talk about your family. Tell me, j'ai une grande famille, mon père s'appelle bla bla bla, Ma mère s'appelle tel nom. J'ai 2 sœurs. J'ai 4 frères. Tell me where they go to school or where they work. Tell me what you do as family. Watching television, cultivating le jardin. Talk until I stop you because you are comfortable with the topic. If you don't, I will take you to another topic. If you don't, I take you to a third. If you don't, I take you to a fourth. Then I decide you were not well prepared. Pour bien réussir dans cette section, il faut, now, in this section, for you to be able to excel, you need to do the following. Être confiante ou confiant. For the girls, it is confiante. For the boys, it is confiant. Remember, for the 3 parts, I've kept on talking about confidence. Confidence doesn't require you to be speaking in any language. It's just confidence in yourself. Et connaître le sujet avec facilité. Know the subject or the topic with ease. Of course, to the level of a high school student. So you don't need to kill yourself. You are in high school, so it is to your level. Réponses doivent être spontanées. Doivent être spontanées. I ask you, comment vous appelez? Third time, je m'appelle Peter Nzouve. Est-ce que vous allez à l'église? Oui, je vais à l'église à Machakos. Aussi, spontaneity. But if I ask you, comment vous appelez-vous? Je m'appelle. What were you doing? What were you processing? You didn't understand the question posed because your answer was not spontaneous. So if I find I am unable to give the answer immediately, what do? I can buy time in French. I can even repeat the question. Par exemple, comment vous appelez-vous? Comment je m'appelle? Oui, monsieur, je m'appelle. I bought time. The best way also is you say, that's the way you buy French, time in French. Comment vous appelez-vous? Je m'appelle Peter Nzouve. Quelle est votre profession? Je suis professeur à Mwindimbingu. You see, buy time so that your answer is seemingly spontané. Then we have utiliser de bonnes expressions. Idiomatic si possible. If there are idiomatic expressions that you know, then you can use them. They give you an age in marks. They say, this is a good student. Then we have éviter de faire les erreurs grammaticales. Grammatical errors can be committed, but there are some that say your language level is too low. For example, you say, aujourd'hui, je suis allé à l'hôpital. Unless you are saying in the evening, that's funny. Hier, je mange. Jana, I am eating. Mais comment? That is tense, wrong. Ma mère, il est professeur. How can your mother be masculine? Il est. Adjectives are either singulier, masculin, féminin, pluriel. Make sure. Hein? Ma mère est intelligente. Mom is intelligent, so intelligente. Mon père est intelligent. Mon père est petit. Ma mère est petite. So it's important you remember that. Then conjugation of verbs, let it be okay. You say, you cannot say, nous est malade. Hapana. You say, nous sommes malades. Then of importance, again, n'utilisez jamais des mots anglais. Never. Never use English words. We call it longlicism. And longlicism is highly punishable. Why are you using English in French? Do you use Kikamba, Dholuo, Kimeru, Kitaita, Kimasai in English exams? No, each language should stand by itself. If you find you don't know a word, then you can explain it. You can go around in French, it's allowed, instead of using an English word. For example, you say, j'assiste ma mère à la maison. J'assiste ma mère à la maison. What is it you are saying? J'assiste. Assister in French means to attend. Like now you are attending a French talk. Do you attend your mother? So you say, j'aide ma mère à la maison, j'aide. So if you find you don't know aide, you know assister, and it is wrong, it is in English, then what you do is very simple. You will say, à la maison, quand ma mère travaille, je travaille avec elle. Of course, you are helping her. You are working with her, so you are helping her. Then, finally, we have éviter les réponses coûteuses. This you must avoid. When you say oui, no, and you keep quiet, you are getting a 0.1 to 0.3 out of 15. So what is the trick? If you find you are saying oui, go ahead and explain. The examiner shouldn't ask you questions that deserve oui as an answer or no as an answer. But if they did, make sure you say you are oui and move on to explain. Par exemple, est-ce que vous aimez les sports? I know the answer is oui. So I say, oui, j'aime les sports, surtout le football. Je suis membre de l'équipe de mon école. Je suis joueur numéro 5. Et j'aime regarder les sports à la télé puisque je suis fanat de football. You see, I still went into detail even when the examiner pushed me to give a oui, no answer. Because if you use many we's, then the examiner may say you belong to 1, 2, 3 out of 15. Now, I don't know whether we have understood that well. Let me get back to where we were. Be natural during your conversation. Try as much as possible to discern the meaning of the questions and answer spontaneously. Make sure you sustain the dialogue by voluntarily talking. Make sure you are confident. Make sure you use good expressions if you have some. Avoid tense errors, errors of gender, errors of number, errors of adjectives, errors in conjugation of verbs. Never use English words. Let the responses be detailed. Avoid we and no as your answers. If that is clear, then allow me approach the areas I think will be examined, the ones we examine in this. Remember, this conversation is between me and you, so I will ask you questions from topics that you already know. Topics that you already know. But how much do you know them? In the event an examiner asks you a question from a topic that you completely are uncomfortable with, then you can excuse yourself in French, they will understand. If you tell them, excusez-moi, monsieur, excusez-moi, madame, je suis nul en sport, they will understand, they will ask you a question from a different domain. But let's try to prepare on these topics, they are important. Le langage de la rencontre. When you meet people, what do you say to them? We have les salutations. We have enchanté. You tell people, pleasure meeting you. When you are parting with them, what do you tell them? Bon voyage. Au revoir et à bientôt. Au revoir et à tout à l'heure. Au revoir et à l'année prochaine. The language of meeting people. Then we have la famille et la vie à la maison. La famille et la vie à la maison. I can ask you anything about your family. I can ask you anything about your maison, house, home. Then we have l'école et la vie scolaire. L'école et la vie scolaire. Basically school and academic life. Comment est le système de Kenya? Système d'éducation Kenya. It has been with 4. But now we have the CBC. It is based on what kind of program? I can ask you. It's an interesting thing. C'est quoi CBC? Then l'école, les loisirs et le sport. Anything about le sport? Quel est votre sport préféré? Tell me. Pourquoi? Quelle est l'importance du sport à l'école? Les loisirs, what do you do? Qu'est-ce que vous faites quand vous êtes libre? You tell me. Les professions et le travail. Huh? We are talking about professions and work. What can you say? What is your profession idéale? Will you tell me, j'aimerais devenir médecin, un medical doctor? Ah, ok. Quel est le travail d'un médecin? Yeye anafanya kazi gani? Où travaille-t-il? Anafanya hiyo kazi akiwa wapi? À l'hôpital. Qu'est-ce que fait-il? Il soigne les malades. Anatibu wagonjwa. La santé et l'environnement? Other than the environment. La vie est à la campagne? Est-ce que vous aimeriez habiter en ville ou à la campagne? Would you wish to live in the town or in the village? Why? Pourquoi? Le voyage et le transport. We talked about that. Traveling and transport. Les activités économiques. Très important. I would have forgotten that today. Les activités économiques. What are the economic activities in your community, in your country? Economic activities, ce sont les activités à travers lesquelles on gagne la vie. These are activities that earners are living. The activities that put on our table. It's not necessarily money. You can go fishing, bring the fish to eat. You can farm to eat. You don't have to sell. They are called economic activities because the earners are living. What are they? Do you know them? Faire la cultivation. Faire la pêche. Fishing. Travailler à l'école comme professeur, comme secrétaire, comme réceptionniste. Do we know them? Être sportive professionnelle. That's also an economic activity, and so forth and so on. La francophonie, I talked about it. La technologie moderne, we also talked about it. Then we have les questions contemporaines. Les questions contemporaines, contemporary questions. Any question in the current affairs. Par exemple, c'est quoi le BBI? What is BBI? On parle de BBI, c'est quoi ça? Qui parle de BBI? If you ask who speaks about BBI, what will you say? They can ask you such questions because they're in the public domain. Then, of importance is now currently we have le virus corona, what we are also calling la COVID-19. You went home for 9 months. You are out of school for 9 months. Why? You say il y avait une maladie. Maladie? Causée par quoi? It was caused by what? Un virus. Ah, comment s'appelle le virus? Le virus s'appelle Corona. Ah, ok. Parlez-moi un peu de la COVID-19. What will you say if I tell you to talk about la COVID-19? Make sure you do it. Make sure you talk now so that at the moment of the exam, it's easy for you to talk about it. Where you are stuck, Mwalimu is there to help you. Okay? Très bien. So I am approaching now the end of my talk, and I hope there will be questions. 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 So I want to take you back to la conversation. We have said basically it's a conversation between you and the examiner. It has very little, it has no card. There is no card for this. Remember, there are only 2 cards you carried out. One is for reading aloud, lecture out. The other one is for expose. That is this speech, conversation. You don't prepare from outside, you prepare now. It will be spontaneous. The examiner will engage you in your speech. What are the most important things? Be natural. Understand, try to understand the questions that are posed to you and answer them after a short while, so that the interlude between the question and the answer is conceived to be normal. Voluntarily work for the development of the speech, of the conversation. Don't kill it. Be confident. It's something you can't buy from a shop. Be prepared to give good expressions if you have some idiomatic ones. Avoid grammar errors that are obvious. Avoid English structures or mother tongue structures and pronunciation. Then finally, I think we have talked about the subjects. And now, as I anticipate your questions, I want to say merci pour votre attention et patience. Bon courage. Bon courage. We are reaching the end of our talk. So I say thank you very much for your patience and your attention. Wish you success. And there goes my name and my contacts. Now we can anticipate any questions that you have. And since you are not many, you can either go to the chat or you unmute. Kulikuwa na Baptist, Baptist wale hapo walikuwa na nini? Wakadisappear. Lakini waliishi ni kama waliacha ikoni wakaenda zao. So if you have any questions, you can write them on the chat or you can unmute and talk. We can listen to you. You are not very many. You can unmute and talk. You can even unmute them. Okay, good. There's a question here. How many points do we give in expose? Good. Expose is a speech, as we said. There is introduction, there is conclusion, there is body. Now it is the body. Maybe we should be asking ourselves, how do you manage to have at least 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes in your speech? Because that will direct us to points. Otherwise, we say, if you can elaborate well your points, 3 to 4 points are good. 3 to 4 points are good. If you elaborate them well, you will find you are even eating to the 3rd minute. 3 to 4 points are good. Well explained, well supported. Thank you. Another question? Yes. Yes. I've lost you. You have gone silent.
So, like BBI.
BBI.
Yes, because you don't know politics. Can you tell the examiner?
You can tell the exam. You can tell the examiner. Monsieur, je n'aime pas la politique. Et bon, je suis nul en politique. That is French you have spoken, isn't it? Monsieur, excusez-moi, je n'aime pas la politique. Et je suis nul en politique. They will switch to another topic. Oui.
Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes. Another question?
So, excuse me.
Yes.
Explain the first 2 topics. Will you stop from there and not go to the 3rd and then the 4th topic?
Sorry, come again, which topics?
Oh, in conversation.
En conversation.
In conversation.
In conversation, yes.
Oui.
The first
So
two
if you
topics.
explain the yes, proposed to you, if you explain them well, will you start from the second topic, or will you still continue up to the fourth?
Now we have a duration that we are supposed to take with each student. But that duration is also determined by the number of candidates waiting outside. Now, in conversation, I'm looking for your niveau de langue. All this drama I'm getting myself into is to determine, do you belong to 15 out of 15, which is possible? Do you belong to 10 out of 15? Do you belong to 7 out of 15? So if I ask you a question on topic 1, I begin by placing you in your level. I tell you, oh, comment vous appelez-vous? You tell me, je m'appelle Monique Thomas. Ah, très bien, Monique Thomas. Parlez-moi un peu de votre école. And you're speaking so well, I've already guessed your language level. I can hear you speak well. I can hear you have good vocabulary level. I can hear you are confident. Then I will take you to the second question, which is likely to be a bit more complex, a bit more complex, not difficult. I ask you, qu'est-ce que vous aimez faire quand vous êtes libre? Then you talk to me about les loisirs, then I realize, okay, très bien. Now I realize I'm not very sure why I'm giving you 15 out of 15. I want to be sure, because now you are at 15. Then I will take you to that topic. I tell you, par exemple, parlez-moi un peu de l'importance du téléphone portable. Now, why am I taking you to point topic 3? I just want to be sure 15 out of 15 is your point. So then you speak well. I'm okay, I give you your 15, we are done. If you are very elaborate, it's very possible within topic 1 and 2, you will have spoken until I need to be conscious that there are other students waiting out. So I'll conclude there, because I'm already sure you have spoken extensively, you have shown interest, and your vocabulary is good, and your language level is good. 15 out of 15, 2 topics, and we are done. So it can be 2 topics, it can be 3 topics, it can be 4 topics. Either way, when it goes to that and forth, it doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're very good. It only means I'm looking for how to settle on what I've already decided as a mark for you. It can be that I'm struggling, it can be either I'm not even struggling, I'm okay, I'm enjoying.
Okay. Yes.
What is one? Let's say that you have an accent.
You have an
bad
accent.
accent.
A bad accent.
The interest of one. Yes. Can they deduct the marks?
Okay. That's a good question. We are all created differently, but we are all able to understand the challenges. I don't want to call them weaknesses. I want to call them the challenges, les défis de notre vie. Poussé par la création. We know what God gave us, we can't change. You have people who stammer. By the time you are through with 2 questions, or even one question, you realize this person stammers. So do you give them a low mark because they stammer? So you can't. You can't punish people for what God gave them. So we will test you within your stammering. After you stammer, are you speaking in French? 2, you have an accent, like you have said. There are people who have a heavy accent. You need to work on the accent, because I want you to imagine you are examining people in English, and they are saying, I am Goroti, Pitanzuvere, Goroti, I love Uti. Now, it becomes a problem, to be very honest with you, because we have the Français standard and we have the French for the Congolese and the likes. But are you fluent in your accent? You know, that's another thing. Let that accent of yours be constant because it's yours, but are you fluent? Are you able to communicate all through in the same way? Are you able to communicate in the same way? The campus may communicate in English with a lot of N's and jumping H, but are they able to communicate convincingly to the end without changing? The Kikuyus have a problem with the L and R, but are they able to communicate all through? So if the accent is based on that, then we are likely to have you still excel because you are constantly like that. It is not you say bonjour, then all of a sudden you say, oui, je m'appelle Mwaniki. Oui, how you can't say bonjour, you say bonjour, then you can say je m'appelle. That must have been mispronunciation. But if it's an accent, there is nothing you can do about it. The examiner will gauge how convenient it is, but they will not fail you. You will get your mark. Another question? I can take 3 more questions in the interest of time. Yes. Some students will ask, can I ask the examiner a question? What question? How does it help you? You can tell them, excusez-moi madame, répétez, pourriez-vous répéter? Est-ce que vous pouvez répéter? But if they are asking you, quel est votre mari idéal? Quel est votre épouse idéal? You explain to them, then you ask them also. That could be a sensitive question. You're asking about them about their ideal partner in marriage. They might be divorced. They might not like the idea. They could be celibate. So don't ask them questions because it is not going to help you get marks. Your questions? Any more questions? Yes? Okay, so then if you don't have any more questions, let me thank you for the sacrifice you've made to attend the session. I pray that what we have gone through today will be of help. Remember, the exam comes a bit earlier, so it is on the way. It's almost arriving. Build your confidence, build your image. If you don't comb your hair that day, comb your hair. Apply some Vaseline on your lips so that you don't have to strangle a lot, and be at ease. It is just an exam for high school students, and we are sent to award marks, not to deny. Bon courage et bon après-midi.